between them is enormous. They are all interrelated, actually, in the way that they were related in their original state. But the awareness of this relationship is lost to each of the individual parts. Anything that is done in one of these parts, which is an individual desire, is felt through this interconnection in every other part. That is, there is an influence, an enormous influence, that is felt throughout the entire system, given the condition or the interaction of the desire of any one of these. So nothing inside here actually functions as an individual. We perceive that it does. This is our sensation of it as a result of the hiddenness of our real state from us. And rather than feeling the interconnection, what we really feel is something more like this, that a person exists independent of others, right? And is a user and an exploiter of others. But really, the condition that we feel is more like this. I'll do it like that, connected to nothing. But the truth is that this collective soul is our environment, and it puts tremendous pressure on us in the form of our society, societal pressures, the way that everything in our environment affects us. So much of what we feel, and we'll see how much, comes from this and not from this. So, as you can see, we are influenced from all sides, inside and outside. And yet, freedom is still achievable, even in the material world, in this lifetime, and not in some other world, as most religions say. But it takes a very special effort, and the effort is to rise above our nature. And that'll become clear as we go on. Let's look at how this happens in the natural world. Animals can show us that there is a quality in nature that really hates slavery. It hates a lack of freedom. If you take an animal and you put it into captivity, especially a wild animal, it will weaken, and in most cases it'll die. And even our pets, domesticated animals, you've got to make a deal with them. You know, you've got to compensate them for their loss of freedom by giving them a lot of food, giving them a certain kind of shelter and a lot of attention, and sort of building up one side of the equation for their will to receive. Otherwise, they simply will not see what's going on as anything but a loss of freedom. And this is the way that nature is constructed. Freedom is a powerful force, and everything is guided towards that freedom. Animals don't make mistakes because they're functioning completely within the law of nature. For instance, you'll see a cat can jump up on a table or up on a wall, and if you look at it really closely, and I've seen this with slow-motion cameras, the cat will leap, but there's a point at which he seems almost to be lifted and just land precisely on the place. It's as though he's in the flow of some kind of energy that just takes him there. And animals don't make mistakes because they're not moving by knowledge. They themselves are not evaluating anything. An animal that's born knows what's good for it to eat, it knows where to find it, and none of this is coming from intelligence. It's all instinctive. It's all there ready for the animal. And even if it looks to us like an animal is making a mistake, like maybe one animal is eaten by another, for which animal is it a mistake? You know, the one that was eaten or the one that did the eating? We see it as a mistake because we are partially embedded in that level of animal, that a part of us is an animal, and we can't see completely outside of the system. And we apply that aspect to it, and we believe that we are seeing something losing and something gaining, where really the animal itself is working completely within nature and is part of a system that works like a cell within a body or an organ within a body, cell within an organ within a body, that is working only for the fulfillment of the whole of the organism, not for the individual. And everything that happens, including when it's time to live and when it's time to die and all that, is done in agreement with the law of nature because the animal is locked into it. So you can see how completely predetermined everything is on that level. That's actually what we call instinct, is predetermination of that level. You can look at the condition of an animal, at least a biologist can, look at where an animal may be geographically, look at the time of the year, and be able to determine, according, say, to the age of the animal and all of those factors, what the next condition of that animal will be, because we know the influential factors of the animal. And we can see that to a certain degree because we're above that level of the system. But we can't see that about ourselves. And the fact that we don't see that is really what we call free will. For the human, free will really consists of a lack of information. It really consists of ignorance. Because we cannot see what the influencing factors are on us. We instead have the sensation that there really aren't any, that all of these conditions that we have are kind of random, they're a matter of fate, and that a person has their own individual response to everything and completely makes their own way. This is really not to sense where the influences are on us. So we have this vague sort of sense of free will, but we can't really define it. And we keep seeking freedom in all kinds of ways within the human system. And one of the clearest ways in which we can see this sort of turnover and seeking of freedom is in the evolution of political systems. What happens in organizations of people is that everything is fine until we feel that there is some kind of restriction on our ability to fulfill certain desires. The system seems to fail us, and then there's a kind of a revolution within it. There's a necessity for change because we are feeling a kind of coercion from the outside. And so we see the turnover of all kinds of systems over time, from hunter-gatherer and that kind of a system to that's simply not enough, and it doesn't allow us to fulfill certain kinds of desires. So larger organizations occur, kingships, and yet still the individual finds that he can't fulfill what he wants to fulfill. So forms of democracy occur, and this constantly turns over, but it's always an expansion